Hi there, Joshua here. So when I was at school, my maths teacher said to me, she said, what's 7 times 5, she said. I said, I don't know my 7 times table. She said, all your 5s apparently. A bit cheeky, I thought. Let's get on with the lesson. So I've got some number lines drawn. This number line here. I've written the multiples of 10 on this number line. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, just the numbers in the 10 times table. And I'm going to call these the tens numbers from now on. And then on this number line, you've got the multiples of 100, the numbers in the 100 times table. 0, 100, 200, 300, 400. I'm going to call these the hundreds numbers. And then you've got the thousands numbers down here. So 0, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. So the multiples of 1,000 I'm going to call the thousands numbers. So here it says round 37 to the nearest 10. What that means is find the tens number, find the multiple of 10 that 37 is closest to. So if I mark 37 on this number line, and I'll tell you it's about here. So what is 30? So I'll just write 37. There we go. So what is 37 to the nearest 10? So which tens number is 37 closest to? Well, you can see from the way I've drawn it that it's closest to 40. So I'm going to write that 37 rounded to the nearest 10, I'll write it like that, is 40. Let's do the next one. Round 140 to the nearest 100. That just means find the hundreds number, find the multiple of 100 that 140 is closest to. So again, I'm going to tell you where it is on the number line. So 140 is about here. 140, it's between 100 and 200. And you can, so which one is it closer to? Well, again, you can tell from the way I've drawn it that it's a bit closer to 100. It's only 40 away from 100, but it's 60 away from 200. So it's closer to 100. So we say 140 rounded to the nearest 100 is 100. That's the multiple of 100 that it's closest to. Let's do the next one. Round 2,800 to the nearest 1,000. So again, that just means find the multiple of 1,000 that 2,800 is closest to. So again, I'll just put it on the number line. So, and I'll tell you it's roughly there. So 2,800 is there. So which thousands number is it closest to? Well, you can clearly see it's closest to 3,000. It's between 2,000 and 3,000. But it's actually only 200 away from 3,000 and it's 800 away from 2,000. So it's closest to 3,000. So I'm going to write 2,800 rounded to the nearest 1,000 is 3,000. That's the thousands number that it's closest to. Right, I'm going to do this now in a bit more detail. Right, so let's do some rounding in a bit more detail now, starting with rounding to the nearest 10. So let's do 168 to the nearest 10. That just means find the tens number that 168 is closest to. We've got the hundreds digit here, the tens digit here, units digit here. We're going to be rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm going to do it with a little picture. I'm going to find the two tens numbers that 168 is between, and then decide which one it's closest to. To get the tens number directly below 168, just get rid of everything to the right of the tens digit. So just get rid of those 8 units and replace them with a 0. So that'll be 160. That's the tens number directly below. To get the tens number directly above 168, just add 10 to that. So just add 1 to the tens digit. That's the next tens number, 170. So 168 is between 160 and 170. Which one is it closer to? Well, you can tell straight away it's closer to 170. And that's because it's bigger than 165. 165 is the number in the middle. Halfway between 160 and 170. 168 is bigger than that, which means it's here somewhere. So it's closer to 170. So to the nearest 10, we say it's 170. So to round to the nearest 10, you find the two tens numbers, your numbers between. We had 160 something, so that's between 160 and 170. and then you've got to decide which one it's closer to by looking after the tens digit. If it was exactly 5, that would be in the middle, so more than 5 and it rounds up, less than 5 and it rounds down. Let's do another example. Let's do 4,382. Let's round that to the nearest 10. In other words, find the tens number it's closest to. I'll put the column headings in again. So you've got the thousands digit, the hundreds, the tens and the units. We're rounding again to the nearest 10. Again, I'll do a little sketch, a little picture. I'll find the two tens numbers it's between and then decide which one it's closer to. To get the tens number directly below 4,382, just get rid of everything to the right of the tens digit. So get rid of the 2 units, replace them with a 0, 4,380. The next tens number after that is just, well, you add 10 to that, so just add 1 to the tens digit, 4,390 is the next tens number, and our number's in between those two. So we've got to decide which one it's closer to. The number in the middle is just 4,385. That's a gap of 10, so that's a gap of 5. So 4,385. And since our number is smaller than that, it must be closer to 4,380. So 4,382 rounded to the nearest 10 is 4,380. So to round to the nearest 10, you've got to think, what are the two tens numbers that are numbers between? So here we had 4,380 something, which tells you it's between 4,380 and 4,390, and then you've got to decide which one it's closest to. So you look after the tens digit, more than 5 it rounds up, less than 5 and it rounds down. Now if it was exactly 5 here, then it would be exactly in the middle, it would be exactly halfway between the two tens numbers, and you could round either way. You could round up or you could round down. Usually we round up though if it's halfway between. So for example, 75, the nearest 10. On a number line, 75 is exactly halfway between 70 and 80. It's exactly in the middle. So you could round either way, but usually we round up. So usually we say 75 to the nearest 10 is 80. Right, let's do some rounding to the nearest 100 now in a bit more detail. So my first one's going to be 328. So what's that to the nearest 100? Just means which multiple of 100 is it closest to. So I'm sure some of you know the answer already, but I'll just go through the process. You've got the hundreds digit here, the tens digit, the units digit. We're rounding to the nearest 100. Again, I'll do it with a little sketch. I'll find the two hundreds numbers it's between, and then decide which one it's closer to. To get the hundreds number directly below this number, just get rid of everything to the right of the hundreds digit. So just get rid of the 2 tens and the 8 units, replace them with zeros. So that'll be 300, 300. To get the hundreds number directly above, 328, just add 100 to that, because it's the next 100, so that'll be 400. And we've got to decide whether it's closer to 300 or 400. You can immediately tell it's closer to 300. Halfway between 300 and 400 is 350. That's a gap of 100, so half of 100 is 50, so that's a gap of 50, so 350 is in the middle. Since 328 is less than that, we know it's here somewhere, so it's closer to 300. So 328 to the nearest 100 is 300. Let's do another one. Let's do 1,652. Let's do that to the nearest 100. Again, that just means which multiple of 100 is it closest to. We've got the thousands digit, hundreds, tens, units, and we're rounding to the nearest 100 again. Again, I'll do a little sketch. I'll just find the two hundreds numbers it's between on the number line and just decide which it's closer to. To get the hundreds number directly below this number, just get rid of everything to the right of the hundreds digit. So get rid of the tens and units, replace them with zeros. So 1600, 1,600. The next hundreds number after that is 1,700, just adding 100. And this number's somewhere in between. Which one is it closer to? Well, again, it'd be useful to have the number in the middle, which is 1,650. So this number is slightly bigger than 1,650. So that tells us it's here somewhere, so it's closer to just closer to 1,700. So that's what it rounds to the nearest 100. So to round a number to the nearest 100, you find the two hundreds numbers it's between. Here we have 1,600 and something, so that's between 1,600 and 1,700. And then to decide which one it's closer to, you look after the hundreds digit. If it was exactly 50, it would be in the middle. So more than 50 and it rounds up, less than 50 and it rounds down. So this was 52, so it rounded up. So before we move on to decimal rounding, let's do some rounding to the nearest 1,000 in a bit more detail. So our first one's going to be, what's it going to be? It's 7,436, the nearest 1,000. We've got the thousands digit, hundreds digit, tens digit, units digit, and we're going to be rounding to the nearest 1,000 this time. So again, I'm going to do a little sketch. I'll find the two thousands numbers it's between and then decide which one it's closer to. To get the thousands number directly below this number, just get rid of everything to the right of the thousands digit. Get rid of the hundreds, tens and units, replace them with zeros. That'll be 7,000, 7,000. The next thousands number after that, just add 1,000, is 8,000. So is our number closer to 7,000 or 8,000? Well, the number in the middle is 7,500, because that's a gap of 1,000, so that must be half of 1,000, which is a gap of 500. Since 7,436 is smaller than 7,500, we know it's here somewhere, so it must be closer to 7,000 than 8,000. So to the nearest 1,000 it rounds to 7,000. Let's do another example. Let's do 29,780. Let's round to the nearest 1,000. Again, I'll just write the column headings. We've got a 10,000s digit here, then the thousands digit, hundreds, tens and units. We're going to be rounding to the nearest 1,000. Again, I'll do a little sketch. I'll just find the two thousands numbers that it's between and then decide which one it's closer to. To get the thousands number directly below, just get rid of everything to the right of the thousands digit, so get rid of the hundreds, tens and units. So that'll be 29,000. What's the next thousands number after that? Well, it's 30,000. So 30,000, just adding 1,000 to that. So our number is somewhere in between. Is it closer to 29,000 or is it closer to 30,000? Again, it'd be useful to have the number in the middle, which is 29,500. And you can immediately see it's bigger than that, so it's closer to 30,000. So it's bigger than 29,500, so which means it's here somewhere. So it's closer to 30,000. So 29,780 to the nearest 1,000 is 30,000. So to round to the nearest 1,000, you find the two thousands numbers that your number's in between. So we had 29,000 and something, so that's between 29,000 and 30,000. And then to decide which one it's closer to, you look after the thousands digit. If it was exactly 500 here, it would be in the middle. So more than 500 and it rounds up, less than 500 and it rounds down. So we had 780, so that tells you to round up because it's more than 500. Now just to finish off this bit, I'm going to do a bit of a strange one. What is 340 to the nearest 1,000? It's a bit of an unusual one. On a number line, 340 is less than 1,000, so I guess you could say it's between 0 and 1,000. The number halfway between 0 and 1,000 is 500. But 340 is even less than 500, so it's here somewhere. So I guess the nearest 1,000 you'd have to say it's 0. So that's a bit unusual. So I guess if a number is less than 500, then rounded to the nearest 1,000 it's 0. And in the same way, if a number is less than 50, then to the nearest 100 it's 0. So for example, 47, it's rounded to the nearest 100 because it's less than 50. I guess that also rounds to 0. Or a number less than 5 rounded to the nearest 10 would be 0. So for example, 3.2 to the nearest 10. Because it's less than 5, I guess that would also be 0. So that's a bit strange.